What's up, everybody? Here today I'm going to revive my 1977 Ford F-250 project. Had this thing for 11 years. I've never driven it. So it's about time to get this thing fixed up and use it like a truck. So stick around and see what we got going on. So this is my 1977 Ford F-250. I bought it for $300 off of Craigslist in 2014. So I've had this truck for 11 years now, and I have never driven it once. I have done a lot of work to this truck throughout the years, but this project has been abandoned multiple times, and it's time for me to actually start working on this thing. I want to use it and enjoy it and drive it. So that's what we're gonna do. So back when I bought this truck, it was 2014, which was a year after Street Outlaws first came out, and I fell in love with the farm truck. That was such a cool truck when it came out on the TV show. It was just like kicking everybody's butts, and I loved watching it. So I really wanted to find a truck, and this thing popped up and it was a super good deal. So I jumped on it. And my original plans were to build this big fancy motor and leave the exterior all original. So originally I built a 429 with every bell and whistle, and that was what was in this truck. I got it running. I never got it finished to the point where it was driving though. So I had that motor in here for quite a while, and then when I bought my station wagon, I decided that I really needed to swap that motor into the station wagon, which really put the final nail in the coffin for this project, and that was about 5 years ago now. So what I did was I took the 429 out of the station wagon and I plopped it right down in here. So this here is a 90,000 mile 429, all original, never been rebuilt, nothing. So that's what we have here. When I first bought the truck, it was sold to me as almost running, and it had a 400 motor in it. And when I finally got it to start up, it was shooting water out from between the block and the head. And that's because the guy used bathtub caulking to repair the blown head gaskets. I've never seen that before. I have talked to a lot of people and nobody has ever seen that before. That was wild. So the easiest route for me was to swap in a big block. The 400s and the big blocks, they have the same bolt patterns and everything. It was super easy. So that's what I did. And now here we are with this 90,000 mile 429. So I swapped this in here in a hurry. I got the wagon all finished and driving so I could drive it from my old house to my new house, and this has just sat like this. I don't know what I tightened down, what I didn't tighten down. It might not be even bolted in here, so I got to figure all of that out. And now I've kept the pack rats out of this thing for 9 years, and in the last year or so they took it over. So now I got to clean all this out before I can move it over to the carport so I can get to work, because it's Arizona and it's sunny and hot. So that's a plan. So for those of you that don't live in the desert, here we have cactus. So pack rats like to take cactus and put it into everything. What do they put into projects where you don't have cactus? What do they carry around? I have no idea. I got a lot of old Ford parts in here. Let's take a look. This is all Super Duty axle parts. That's the exhaust for this truck, the radiator for this truck, lots of different stuff here. This has just been my rolling shed for a while. It's not as full as the van, but there's still a lot in here.
How are the brakes feeling?
They're fine. Well, we tried with the golf cart. It got it down the hill and to my cul-de-sac, but it wouldn't make it up the hill. So now we had to switch to F-150 power. Here we go. Alrighty, so the first thing I want to do here is, since this motor doesn't have a distributor in it, I want to get this motor to top dead center and get the distributor plugged into it. And to do that, I'm going to have to rotate the engine around. So I'm going to prime the oil system with the distributor or the oil pump drive shaft, so that I know that there's some oil in it before I start turning everything over. So let's get started with that. First, I got to make sure there's a oil pump drive shaft in here. Alrighty, I think that will be enough. Definitely oil moving around in there, so that is way better than if we just tried to crank it without doing that. Now that we got that doing well, we will pull the number 1 spark plug out. Take a look at it, see what she looks like. Should be all right. Alright, I am going to call that top dead center on the compression stroke. Even though this is a used engine with a used distributor, I will still put some lube on this cam gear just because I've got it and it's easy enough to do. Today I worked on some of the stuff underneath the truck. I got the transmission all bolted to the engine. I had all the bolts in, none of them were tight. All the torque converter bolts needed tightened, so I did all that. And the transmission dipstick, I didn't realize that had been out for 5 years, so hopefully that's fine. Yeah, besides that, I will be changing the fluid on everything: the engine, transmission, rear end, brakes, obviously the coolant system, which isn't here. So it'll be all right, it'll all work out. Let's get to putting some of these front accessories back on the motor. I think that's what I want to do next, so we will work on that. Well, this is definitely the cool part about working on old trucks. With the radiator and some of these accessories out of the way, I can just stand in here. Makes it really nice. Now we got the motor mount bolts all tightened up. I will say these are a lot easier to get to than the ones on the station wagon. Those ones are awful. You have to like jack the motor up, get the bolt in the right position, let the motor down a little bit, get one side started. It's a nightmare. But this, I just did that in 10 minutes. Nice and easy. What I got going on down here is I got this little amount of room here to work, but I got to scrape these freaking gaskets off of here. Apparently I just said that's a problem for future me and went on living my life. So now I get to do this. For those of you that are wondering why I'm not just taking these headers out. It's because these are the L&L long tube headers and they're huge. Getting them out is a chore. I think this side that I'm working on would come out if I jack the truck up. I think you got to jack the truck up like 2 feet in the air so that you can get these stupid things out. I believe it's the other side that they just do not come out. Now we attempt to get the gas tank back into place and film at the same time. Alrighty, got to tighten up this alternator belt here. Always a fun thing to do on these 460s. You got to remove your water pump pulley to be able to change the alternator belt. Quite an interesting thing. If you have a fan, obviously that's bolted to the same location. All right, not too bad. You definitely see some shit in the pan from leaving the dipstick open for the last 5 years, but not too bad really. So not sure if you can tell or not, but what I did here was I went through and laid the gasket down and then like threaded the bolts into the gasket so that it holds it all together. This gasket was pretty warpy. Forgot to take it out of the box and flatten it out beforehand, but just laid it in the Tucson sun here. She flattened out pretty good, and then just like I said, threading the bolts into the gasket and sticking this whole thing up here, that seemed to do the trick. This is one of the like rubber type gaskets, not a paper one, so maybe there's a difference if you're trying to do it with that one, but it worked here for me. Well, I went to install the drive shaft, and when I did, the seal that goes on the output shaft, it decided to crack open because it's been sitting out here with nothing in it. So now I had to remove the seal out of there, and I went and got a new one. So be installing that now. If you've never taken one of these out, it's not super fun. I now know that you could take the this whole housing off fairly simply, but I didn't think about it ahead of time, and I really don't want to do it at all. So got a couple of burrs here. All right, time to put the carbureting machine on here. Next steps I got to go here are connecting all of the wiring here in the engine bay, like to the electric choke and all of my sensors and fans and stuff like that. And then I need to figure out how to fix this kick down. I know I had a kick down hooked up to this carburetor before. Just have to figure out how I did that. It's not making sense right now. But other than that, I'll need to change the oil, add oil to the transmission, and buy 2 batteries because I decided to put dual batteries on this truck back in the day, which I mean that's how it was originally set up, but I technically didn't need it. There's a pretty big stereo system in this truck, so I just gotta go around and look for some rat damage, see where the rat chewed on that wire. The only 2 I see are that one, and then this one has a couple nicks in it, but other than that it seems to be pretty good. I like to use this dielectric grease in this little can here. You can find it at Home Depot. Works good to make it easy to remove your spark plug wires later. So I went and got some gas, filled the transmission up with oil, filled up the power steering. The battery is ready to hook up. I think that's everything I need to do. Connected the fuel line to the carburetor. I'm gonna crank this thing over without the coil wire on, so it might make some weird noises. Well, that's about as much as I want to try to start her up, but she is running, not staying running or anything. I think the accelerator pump in this carburetor is probably messed up. Might have to take a look at that, but she's starting. So what I have done is I took the front bowl off of the carburetor. I was going to replace the accelerator pump because it wasn't working, but when I went to do that, after soaking in fuel for a couple of days, everything seemed to work fine. So I left that one in there. So we're gonna go from there. I loosened up the distributor here so we can change the timing around a little bit, see where we're at, and try to get this thing cranking. Okay, so I thought that the timing was 180 degrees out, but for some reason I just made up whatever the hell I wanted when I put the spark plug wires on. Apparently those all got mixed up. I remember going through the order, but I must have just had some sort of out-of-body experience going on. So I got that figured out now. Let's see what she thinks. Now we got her running, so I want to put it in gear, back it out, see if all the gears work, and we'll go from there. I've owned this truck for 11 years and I've never driven it, so this will be the first sort of drive. All right, so I got her moving, but she is not yet drivable. This is still a project that is unfinished. So there's a lot of stuff on the interior here that needs to be done. I've got this King Ranch seat in here temporarily. Hopefully I can make some brackets to make it work. I got a pile of stuff I still need to install. The wiring is still mostly done, but still needs finished. But we're almost there. All right, so the next video, I'll be getting all this interior wrapped up, finishing some little bits of wiring. I gotta wire the bed, and that should be it. So follow along, just like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching.